Hey folks, everything new under the sun. First look at Hurricane Lee. This is AccuWeather.com, and the hurricane is tracking. And according to AccuWeather, at least this is one of the ones that said it's going to be a little bit more powerful. This shows it being a Category 1 hurricane hitting basically Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, heading up into Prince Edward Island, not hitting U.S. mainland if it tracks in the center of that particular swath or bubble there. So that's interesting because Fiona came in as a Category 1 hurricane, and at least by wind speed. Some other websites are suggesting it's going to weaken a little bit more than that. It's going to come in more like a tropical storm. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But be prepared. I just got a product that plugs into an 18-volt Makita battery and provides 200 watts of power, a USB charger, and a light. I'm going to be doing a review on that one. I paid for it myself, but I thought it would be interesting to do a review and see how that works for emergency use. So watch and stay tuned for an upcoming video on that. Let's take a look at. So yeah, this is another a forecast from stormdamagecenter.org. Again, basically a Category 1 heading up into Nova Scotia early Saturday, and I think late Saturday, Sunday is when it actually gets to Nova Scotia. So we'll see how that is, how that's going to work out. This one's an interesting one. This is Israel 365 News. It says world leaders announce railway that may bring pilgrims to the Third Temple. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday, go away, Netanyahu on Saturday hailed U.S.-led initiative to create rail and shipping link that will connect India with the Middle East and Europe as the start of a unique and unprecedented era of global and regional cooperation. Now, does it say anywhere in the Bible that people may be traveling to Jerusalem from different locations? Well, yeah, there's a prophecy in Zechariah, which is interesting, and it has to do with the wrath of God and the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ and what's going to happen in the last days. So Zechariah chapter 14 says, behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be taken, the houses of rifle, and the woman ravished, and half the city shall go into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth, fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives. So speaking about the second coming of the Lord, the physical coming, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, the east and toward the west, and there shall be a great valley, and half of the mountain shall be removed toward the north, and half of it toward the south. It goes on and speaks about let's see what's happening during that period of time. The Lord shall be king over all the earth, and that day there shall be one Lord, and his name one. So this is speaking about the millennial reign of Christ. Let's go on further. It says, and it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem, during the end of 6,000 years and during the wrath of God, Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be also those whoso will not comply, will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts. Even upon them shall be no rain. So during the millennial reign of Christ, all will come to Jerusalem to worship the Lord of hosts. And again, it just makes me think, are they going to come by train? They're trying to connect Jerusalem so that all nations can come toward and to the third temple, in this case, all pilgrims. But they're trying to make a road, a passageway from, the north and the south to come up into Israel. And again, in this case, for the third temple. So we're starting to see this idea of, all peoples traveling. And the Bible describes it rightly. All people will travel ultimately to Jerusalem, and they will ultimately travel there to worship God, but not necessarily not in the third temple. But that's interesting to see that coming to light, and that's what it makes me think of. Now, as it relates to renewable energy, electricity, those rates are going to be going up. So this is why you need solar, alternative energy. This is why you need to be your own power source, as the price of energy will go up regardless. War is going to cause that. Economic collapse is going to cause that. Energy will increase in value. So this is why you need to start taking a look at, what you have in terms of what you can power when the grid is down, or simply when rates rise so high that they become cost ineffective. Electricity prices in Italy surged 30% in a week as another winter without cheap Russian gas approaches. So, are you ready for your electricity to surge 30% or 50%, whatever it may be? The price of gas has increased basically 100% now since prior to the pandemic. Were you ready for that? And how much of your budget is, how much of a chunk of your budget is that taking out? And I tell you what, it's taking a huge amount from our budget that was otherwise going to, whether it be school supplies or um, uh, amusement of some sort, or just for your basic grocery bills. It's even cut into our grocery bills. That massive increase in gas. It means you can't do other things. You can't travel as much as you'd like to. You're cutting down all, extra travel as much as you can. And so, yeah, this is where you need to start saying, okay, if there's an energy source that I can get and use that's cheaper in the long run, that's going to help me to, stretch my budget if I'm not paying as much for, say, electricity. And where I am, they're pushing heat pumps, which are electric, of course. And it's only a matter of time before the electrical companies, the grid operators, say, you know what, I want to charge as much as they do for gasoline and petroleum products, and they will start jacking up the energy prices in the name of climate change or whatever it may be. So it's coming. This is an interesting story about from exposenews.com, smart meters. The idea of smart meters, and I mentioned it before, is that once they install smart meters everywhere, they can start penalizing you for what you're using for your energy usage. They can start shutting you off. Um, uh, this is speaks of the Smart Tyranny Coalition, and they're starting to bring in bills which basically force people to get these smart meters, and it means that they can monitor they can say, oh, you're using a little bit too much energy, your carbon footprint is too much, or they can simply, even if they don't say that, what they're going to say is, you're using too much power, we're going to jack up the price on that to basically encourage you to use less power. And this is a form of financial freedom to get off grid, or start going off grid, be able to produce your own energy so that you're not restricted, so the government can't nickel and dime you as much as they'd like to, and they can't force you to bend to their will. And they will put pressure on people. This will all be all in the name of climate change, and they will put pressure on people to where people start bowing and saying, okay, I'll do whatever the government says because they're cranking up my electricity and I can't afford it anymore. So to be free from this, to be financially free from the government, and not to have to bow the knee really to climate change and the government, get your own energy source and start being frugal with your energy as well. Consider removing power sources. Do you need that extra TV that's plugged in all the time? Can you hang your clothes up on the line to air dry? Can you do these things without needing power? Yeah, it might be harder. It might be like 150 years ago where people, pioneers were living off the land with no electricity. But that's not altogether a bad thing. It's just a change of mind, and a decision to go a different way, and to not be reliant on government sources, on mainstream sources for energy, and etc. So become your own bank, as Gregory Manarino always says. So I'll leave there, guys. Just a little update on what's happening, and the news that I see which is important and relates to end time Bible prophecy. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.